Hey, Merry Christmas everybody! It's the 25th of December. I'm up the Hill of Beans and it's 3:45. So the sun's already gone behind the hill. I meant to get up earlier, but we were waiting to open presents with our son. So I'm up a wee bit later today. I'm listening to Piranesi. Started it this morning, sitting in the living room in the quiet house, because now with our son being 19, he doesn't get up at the wee hours to wake us up to see if Santa's been. So here I am, and I'm feeling good. So I wanted to talk a bit about goals for 2026, specifically reading goals. First of all, 2025 has been probably the best reading year of my life. It's been spectacular, and I'm sure I'll do a video about that when I'm sitting at my desk and I've got my books in front of me. So Piranesi is the third last book on my TBR. It's going to leave, no, is it? It's going to leave 3 books, so it's the 4th last book. It's going to leave behind Moby Dick. It's going to leave behind East of Eden, and it's going to leave behind Jude the Obscure. So 3 books that I've never read and didn't get to. What does it say about me that they're all classics? And I'm speed reading through lots of fantasy right now. So I do plan to read those books in 2026. I'm going to move them up to more or less the top of my TBR. In fact, I might actually get to one of them before the end of the year. Not finish it, but at least start it. Jude the Obscure's been on my list since I bought it in 1995, back when I was at St Andrews living in Bridge Street. I went into my, no, it'd be 96, is that right? 6, 7, 7, 8, yeah, 1996. I went into my junior honours year. Oh, still a bit out of breath. I'm still going up the hill, so you'll forgive me puffing and panting. That would be kind of you, thank you. So yeah, Jude the Obscure is an important one for me. Moby Dick is there because I read a John Irving novel last year, just towards the end of the year, The Last Chairlift, and Moby Dick featured quite heavily in that as a plot device, I suppose you might say. So that put that on my radar. And then I watched a movie through the year called The Warrior, which was an excellent movie. I really enjoyed it. It's about mixed martial arts, about which I knew absolutely nothing. It's kind of like a Rocky style film, but with MMA rather than boxing. And in that film, the main character's father, played by Nick Nolte, listens to Moby Dick on audiobook. So I'm going to try and seek out that exact narration if I can find it. So, East of Eden, yeah, actually I did say all 3 books I hadn't read before. That was a lie. I have read East of Eden. I read it, I'm going to say around about 2011, 12, something like that. I believe I read it after Grapes of Wrath. Grapes of Wrath is one of my top 5 books of all time. East of Eden isn't, but I do remember enjoying it, and I'm wondering whether it's a contender for top 10. So I want to read that again. So that's the beginning kind of my 2026, along with, of course, The Master and Margarita, which I've spoken about at length, so I don't need to go into that anymore, other than to say I will be reading it as a group. I'll be leading a group through it on my Substack at camscampbellreads.substack.com. So if you've never read it, come along. It's well, I just said I wasn't going to talk anymore about it, didn't I? But I guess if you haven't seen my Master Margarita video, I should introduce it a little bit. I'm going to be reading it over January and February, written by Mikhail Bulgakov in the 1920s. So we're talking Stalinist Russia, we're talking censorship, we're talking purges, fear, paranoia, and in the book itself we've got magic realism, which was not the order of the day according to Stalin's edict. Stalin's edict was social realism was the order of the day. So it's an interesting twist on that. I've read it, I think, 3 times already. I'm very much looking forward to reading it again. Another book on my list to be near the top is War and Peace, which I've read twice. The last time being 2 years ago with Simon Hazel on his Substack. And this year I want to read a chapter a day in Russian, because my Russian it's not strong, not like it used to be. And although I did read a lot of it in Russian back when I was a student, I'd like to read all of it. And to read a chapter a day, they're very short chapters. It'll be a fun project and a rewarding project, which means I'm not going to be reading the Master Margarita in Russian as well, because I think that would just be too much. Although you never know, I do have it in Russian, so I shall take a look and see. So that's kind of the strong points of the beginning of the year. Where am I going to go after that? Well, I would like to read more Russian classics, 19th century Russian classics that I haven't read, because so far in my YouTube/Booktube content I've been rereading stuff I've read before, so Crime and Punishment, Oblomov, War and Peace, Master Margarita. There's a lot of Russian classics I haven't read. 235, I want to get up to 245 metres. Resurrection by Tolstoy, Demons by Dostoevsky. Those are kind of the ones that spring to mind off the top of my head. Dr. Zhivago, that's a big one. Definitely want to read that this year, so I will be doing that with a group. So if that's on your list, just stay tuned and I'll be announcing that at some point. I'm aware of my own modus operandi when it comes to ADHD and autism and procrastination and imposter syndrome, etc. So back-to-back read-alongs with no break are not really achievable for me. So it's going to be January, February for Master Margarita, and then a break for March, and then something else for April. So possibly Dr. Zhivago in April, 242 metres. So what else would I like to read next year? I suppose continuing with some of the series that I've already started, topmost of which is The Realm of the Elderlings. I did get to the end of the Rainwild Chronicles. This is by Robin Hobb, a series of fantasy books. The Rainwild Chronicles I disliked quite strongly, but the final trilogy is back with Fitz and the Fool again, so yeah, I'm intending to read those 3. I think last year I read 7, 4 plus 3. Yeah, I read the Tawny Man trilogy as well. So 7 Hobb books, next year will be 3. There's also The First Blade, which I bought last year by Joe Abercrombie. I believe that's a grimdark fantasy, so that's going to be right in my wheelhouse. I'm at 248. I've overshot a little bit. Right, so 248. I'm trying to see where the edge of the tile is, where Google Maps has lost detail. Anyway, so the first blade, or the blade itself, whatever it's called, which the first law is the series. There's also Grace of Kings, which I just finished by Ken Liu, so I want to read the second one of that. There's Ninshu Bar by Emily H. Wilson. I think she's the one with the H. This is a trilogy based on a retelling of the Epic of Gilgamesh, and it's fantastic. The first was Inanna, which I read last year. The second is Gilgamesh, which I read this year. So Ninshu Bar is definitely up for being read next year. I'm not going to finish or continue with The Will of the Many, whatever that series is called, by James Islington. I thought The Will of the Many was quite poor, actually. So yeah, I won't be continuing with that. I think it's The Strength of the Few is the second one. I just found it weak, I suppose. I mean, notwithstanding the grammar errors that really annoyed me. I just found that, you know, the protagonist was able to win everything he did with, I mean, even when the stakes were high, it didn't seem like there was any hardship there. So yeah, I'm not going to finish that. What's the other series I've just finished? Oh yeah, Gaurav Mohanty. So Sons of Darkness, followed by Dance of Shadows. So I'm going to read Dance of Shadows for certain. And another series is Rogba Payne's series, which begins with The Dance of Shadows and continues with Testimony of Blood. So quite a few fantasy / epic series on the go for me to continue with, because I do, as I spoke about yesterday, if you've watched my ramble from this very beautiful spot, I do really enjoy a fantasy novel, particularly when they're grimdark. So, also my podcast on Thomas Covenant, that's something I would like to do more of. My co-host is not up for doing the second book. If there are any fans out there of Covenant, or even non-fans who've never read it but would like to, and would be up for coming on a podcast with me, like regularly, to discuss the books as we read them, that could be fun. Check out the series 1 that I've done with my friend Barge, where we discussed Lord Fowl's Bane all the way through, top to tail. And if that's interesting to you, I would like to read it again to discuss it in more depth. So that's a possibility. My Substack is going well. I'm really enjoying what I'm putting out there, and I'm enjoying the community aspect of it in a big way. It's a fabulous place to write and to discuss books. So what are my plans for there? Well, I guess just the read-alongs that I've already discussed. I could actually, and would like to, read the Gormenghast trilogy on my Substack. So the thing is, I'm kind of niched down at the moment into the Russian lit guy, which is fine. You know, I do want to go deeper into Russian lit and learn more and discuss it more and read more and all of that. So that's never going to go away. But as you know, if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, there's more to me than that. And Gormenghast is one of my all-time favourite series of books. I've read the first 2 numerous times. I've read the third one only once, which is interesting. I did enjoy it, actually. A lot of people don't. That would be an interesting thing in itself to discuss. So those are kind of my reading goals for 2026. Other than that, I don't know, I see all kinds of reading goals from other people that I think are interesting. Last year I had one which was not to allow 14 days to elapse before publishing another video on my YouTube channel. I didn't make it. I think there are several days or several chunks of over 14 days. So that tells me that wasn't a great goal to aspire to, and posting just for the sake of an arbitrary time goal, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Also with numbers of books read, don't care. I do track it, but just because I'm a stats nerd, mainly on my Notion actually. I've got a big Notion books database where I track all of that, and I think it's useful for looking back and all of that. Particularly stuff like which books are rereads compared to which books are read for the first time, etc, etc. So I mean, I can go into that in another video if you want, when I'm sitting at my desk and I've got all that information to hand. I think that's my goals covered really. If there was going to be one kind of meta goal, it would be to be kinder to myself, you know, acknowledge my own rhythms and limitations in terms of energy and all of that, which I kind of do anyway, but the problem is I beat myself up about it. So, you know, setting goals, particularly for read-alongs, I think that's important. You know, I have to keep on top of that work-wise. My Crime and Punishment one was the first, and that was a good example of how not to do it, because I did slip a bit with that. Whereas with the White Guard, I think I did admirably well with that. So it's really down to page number per week. If I set a goal that's too high, then I'll struggle, because I've got to read the book and write the content as well. So anyway, I'm clearly just rambling now, so I am going to say goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm going to go back to Piranesi on my way back down the hill. Cheers, see you later.